Hello, hello. It is Becky Crine jumping on live from Cochrane, Alberta. And we are doing our monthly wellness webinar. So, what are we talking about tonight? We're talking about hormones, we're talking about gut health. So, maybe you're wondering, I've been feeling bloated, I'm a bit gassy, I've got a bit of brain fog, and you're thinking your hormones are out of balance. Are your hormones affecting your gut health? Or are the choices you're making that contribute to your gut health affecting your hormones? So, that is what we are going to talk about tonight, specifically looking at gut health over 40, because everything over 40 just seems to be a little bit more unique than it was 20 years ago. So, I want to jump right into this and talk to you guys tonight about what you're going to learn. So, what can you expect after tonight? Well, we're going to talk about the role of hormones in gut health. We're going to talk about the role of gut health to hormone balance. You're going to see we're constantly going in this little circle here, okay? The feedback loop. We're going to give you some tips to heal your gut, some tips to heal your hormones, and then just really how do we just simplify it? Because I am going to give you a lot of information tonight. Take what serves you, leave what doesn't. But really, when we wash away some of the science stuff, we're just looking at some really basic things that you can do to make an improvement like right now. So if you have not done this, okay, grab a paper and grab a pen, because when we're learning something new, science again shows if we write it down, if we write notes, we're more likely to retain that information. Okay. And then let me know in the comments what your biggest struggle has been with your health in this maybe perimenopause or over 40 stage of life, right? Do you have any hormone concerns? Are you struggling with anything with your gut health? And hopefully we can get you some answers as to what's going on tonight. So let's dive in. So, you guys, if those of you that know me well, I love to learn. I love science. I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to figuring out how things work. And then I love to teach it. And so that's my passion is as I'm learning things in every stage of life. When I was pregnant, I taught prenatal yoga. I was a doula, right? Every stage of life, I tend to teach what I'm learning and what is my body experiencing. So, you guys, the body, it is just probably one of the coolest things, like coolest things in the entire universe is how our human body works. So on this slide, I'm gonna actually read it because it's just fascinating to me, because the human body, it's this really deep interconnected web of very intricate mechanisms. Like, it is so fascinating. And at the heart of that, the complexity of this body, we have the interplay between our hormones, our gut health, and actually our brain. Okay, I'll add a third element into that tonight. And from this little interplay of our hormones, our gut health, our brain, it really affects everything. It regulates our mood, our metabolism, our digestion, our immunity, right? And it's really vital to maintain balance in everything in our life with these two simple things, hormones and gut health. Okay. What's crazy is that for most of us women over 40, I would say most people in general, actually, that balance is not in balance, okay? Because modern life is busy, it is stressful, it's full of processed foods, it's full of easy choices, and we create this imbalance, all right? So let's start by talking about the hormones. And I want you to picture you're at the symphony, right? And you have all the different instruments playing. You've got percussion, you've got the clarinets, you've got the flutes, you've got the bass trombones. Some of band parents here. You've got all of these parts of the symphony that all have a job to do. And when they do their job when they're supposed to, it is this beautiful sound of music. Okay. And that's what we heard at Alexis's spring concert. She's in grade 6. But the beginning of the year, that very first band concert where people were just learning things and people maybe weren't playing exactly when they should have been, it didn't sound quite as good, right? It was a little bit rougher around the edges. That's how your hormones work. They are this beautiful symphony. They're one of our body's messenger systems, right? And they orchestrate this huge array of bodily functions, right? So your endocrine system impacts so much. Again, you're going to hear these words over and over again. There's a reason I'm repeating them so much. So mood regulation, metabolism, energy levels, right? And as I gave you that picture of, the grade 6 band playing their first time, there was a little bit of disruption there, okay? So when the symphony is disrupted, there is just not equilibrium going on. Things aren't functioning well, okay? That's sort of how our bodies work. Now, the role of hormones in gut health, they do a lot of things. This is where it's going to get a little bit dry, you guys, bear with me, but I think it's so empowering to have a knowledge of what's happening, right? So the hormones affect gut health. How do they do that? Okay. So there's quite a few things. Number one is gut motility. So we have hormones like serotonin, gastrin, motilin, and they're responsible for moving things along, right? I don't know if you've ever noticed that sometimes, you could just feel sluggish. You eat food, maybe you don't poop for a couple days, and you don't feel great, right? We want to keep things moving along in a very motile, GI tract, right? So these hormones are responsible for, digestion, absorption of nutrients, elimination of waste. So of course, if we have a disruption in serotonin, gastrin, or motilin, you're going to see a disruption in those tasks that it does, right? So number one, our hormones affect gut motility. Number two, they affect the intestinal barrier function. And so there's a hormone by the specific name of see if I can say this correctly, glucocorticoid, there it is. And it helps to regulate the integrity of the intestinal barrier. So I'm sure you've heard of leaky gut, right? That's kind of a common word that's kind of out there. Again, because we don't tend to eat the best diet in North America, okay? But this barrier, what it does, it prevents the harmful substances, it prevents pathogens from entering into the bloodstream. It also allows for absorption of nutrients into the intestine so your body can utilize them. So if you've got some trouble there with that barrier, right, you're going to see some inflammation. You're going to see, again, bloating, all of those negative factors, right? So it's really important that we have healthy, balanced glucocorticoids, okay? Now, there are other things it does. Let's go to the next slide. Your hormones also affect the gut microbiome interaction. So what does that mean? Okay. So hormones can influence the composition and the diversity of your gut microbiome. We're going to talk about microbiome specifically in a little bit, but basically it's all the bacteria in your gut. Okay. You want them. You want good bacteria in there. And it's really essential for proper digestion, nutrient absorption, immune function. There's those words again and again and again, right? So hormonal imbalances can disrupt that, right? If the hormones are a little bit wonky, our microbiome can get a little bit wonky, and then we can have GI issues, okay? Immune response. You've probably heard this before, but 70% of your immune system lives in your gut, right? It's crazy. So hormones, particularly cortisol, which is the stress hormone, progesterone, right? We know that's one of our sex hormones. They help to modulate the response in the gut. They help to regulate inflammation, immune cell activity, the release of immune mediators. And when we have imbalances there, of course, we see that our immune system fails, right? And again, we have more GI issues. Now, what's interesting, have you ever noticed? I'll give you an example. So, both my husband and my youngest daughter, they're like detectives at knowing when they're going to get sick. My husband will just be like, "My stomach feels off. I'm going to get sick," and I'll be like, "What?" Every single time he knows immediately because his gut tells him. He actually feels some discomfort, whether he gets a common cold, not talking just a stomach flu, but a common cold, any kind of virus, he gets an upset stomach. It's fascinating to me. He's very in tune with that, as is Alexis. I'm not so in tune with that one, I got to be honest, right? Now, a couple other things that it does. Okay, so your hormones also are really responsible for that gut-brain axis, right? So your hormones and the gut-brain axis, they have this, again, biodirectional feedback loop constantly. You're going to hear that term a lot tonight. But hormonal imbalances can impact your brain function, your mood, your stress levels, right? Which in turn affects your gut influence. There's all these circles that happen in the body, right? So again, cortisol is that hormone that can really cause some troubles here when we have too much of it. It affects, again, that gut motility. It affects that barrier function, and it affects that immune response. And so again, have you ever noticed when you are really stressed, if there's something crazy going on in your life, you're more likely to get sick? or you're more likely to maybe get bloated or to feel some discomfort. You'll get stomach cramping. It's all related, right? The body is this, I get so excited about it, but it's just this like, it's just amazing what the body can tell you if we just listen, you guys. I've learned to listen in the past year, and it amazes me on a given every day what my body tells me. Okay. Rabbit hole. Sorry. Okay. What else do hormones do as far as gut health happens? Okay. So they help with appetite regulation. All right. So hormones such as leptin, ghrelin, I can't pronounce that correctly. They are actually involved in appetite regulation. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see this better. So they're actually involved in appetite regulation, right? So they communicate with the brain and tell us if we're hungry, they tell us if we're full. And when we have imbalances in those hormones, we don't know. Are we hungry? Are we full? Are we not hungry? And have you ever noticed that? There's like just sometimes I go through days and I'm like, oh, I forgot to eat. I guess I didn't get those signals from my body that day, or I'll overeat, right? So that's one of the other things they do. So it's really important that we understand this intricate relationship between hormones and gut health. And it's so essential for maintaining well being. Now, the gut, so we talked about how the hormones affect gut health, and the gut is this powerhouse, right? It is our second brain. Who's heard that before? Drop the word second brain if that sounds familiar to you. But it plays an incredible role. Okay. We know the gut works in digestion, nutrient absorption, immune function. We heard it again. That gut microbiome, it has a profound influence also on our physical and mental well being. So, again, have you noticed that if you're going through sickness, like obviously you're not feeling great, but maybe you feel a little bit sad, you get a little bit depressed, right? All of these things are on that circular system, right? So we talked about hormones affecting gut health. Gut health also affects hormones. Okay. And it can be tricky, like which is which. Okay. The good news, you guys, as we get into the solutions are the same either way. Okay. So, first of all, we have hormone production and metabolism. Okay. So, again, that gut microbiome, all those little organisms running around in your gut there, they play a crucial role in metabolizing and recycling hormones. So you want that to be healthy to ensure that we have optimal hormone production, you have optimal hormone breakdown, and you also are optimally eliminating excess hormones from your body, right? So your gut is responsible for that. Your gut is also responsible to help with estrogen metabolism, okay? And if there's an imbalance in there, we can actually get too much of an enzyme called beta glucuronidase. I practiced this before this webinar, but these are big words. Now, this is an enzyme we need, okay? But if it gets too out of whack, right, it can actually result in higher estrogen levels, potentially leading to hormonal imbalance because we don't in perimenopause, again, with these fluctuating estrogen levels. So it's important that our gut health helps us to keep just the right amount of that enzyme so we can metabolize estrogen properly. Okay. And then insulin regulation, right? Talking about blood sugars. So if our gut is healthy, we're able to really balance that. Which, and if it's not healthy, right, it leads to problems with blood sugar control and hormonal imbalance. So again, you see they're back and forth, right? Okay, what else does gut health do for hormones? Okay, neurotransmitter productions. Okay, almost through this boring science part, you guys, but it's so important. I think there's so much knowledge here that is just powerful to understand how your body works. So, neurotransmitter production. Okay, so the gut produces these various neurotransmitters. So, some of them would be serotonin, dopamine, GABA. Okay, you guys have heard of those probably. These neurotransmitters, they play a really crucial role in regulating your mood, how you're feeling, your stress response, your hormone balance, right? So again, the gut gets out of balance, that microbiome gets out of balance. It affects the production and availability of these neurotransmitters, okay, which again can impact hormone regulation. I don't know, it's mind boggling, but you're going to maybe notice I keep saying the same thing over and over again in reverse and in forward, right? Because they're so interrelated. Inflammation and hormonal balance, right? This is a big one, you guys. So, a healthy gut can really help to control inflammation. When we have inflammation, our hormones go out of balance, right? With chronic inflammation, it disrupts those hormones and it signals and it disrupts the signals of the hormones as well. So not just how much is produced, but like them sending messages back and forth. Those signals get disrupted, and that can cause all kinds of health issues. And then of course we have the thyroid. Okay, that's a big one for a lot of people. Gut health can actually influence the conversion of T4 to T3, which is your inactive to active thyroid hormone. And if that gut isn't right, that conversion process can get disrupted. And we see a lot of women over 40 are getting their thyroid checked, right? So there's so many ways in which our gut health affects our hormones. You can see this connection. I keep talking about this loop. It is very much a biofeedback loop. So what's really cool is all the cells that line all the way down your GI system. All these cells have little receptors on them for both estrogen and progesterone. So those main sex hormones we talk about, right, through perimenopause, well, through all of our years, I guess, as a woman, right? But all these cells through our whole system have these receptors for those hormones, right? And these hormones really have a significant impact on how our gut functions, right? Which we've already learned. So as we kind of looked at, just to kind of review in kind of a summary, so to speak, of what we just talked about, they can affect how quickly food moves through our system and how much fluid we retain. Because we all know, again, as if you noticed around your period, things change. You retain fluid, you get bloated, right? There's very definitely a relationship there between our gut and our hormones. And you can see that with your monthly cycle, right? So hormone levels become really erratic in perimenopause. They're harder to figure out. It's really interesting in our house is I'm in perimenopause and my kids are all just starting, into their early menstrual cycles and into that part of their reproductive years, so to speak. And we're all living together and then our bodies are trying to sync. It's a little bit crazy here sometimes, I got to tell you. But it's very erratic in perimenopause. And then as we get into menopause, of course, these hormone levels really, really drop off. And we really start to see GI issues such as, changes in bowel patterns. We're often constipated, maybe gassy, bloated. If you ever notice you just can't eat what you used to eat anymore, you need digestive enzymes. We'll talk about that later, okay? But this, just think of this feedback loop again, right? It's constant. And so other hormonal imbalances, as we talked about, can also affect gut function. I can't talk tonight. So thyroid imbalances, cortisol dysregulation, insulin roller coaster, these all have an influence on gut function, right? So in one summary, all of that talking I just did in the last 17 minutes, okay? Sorry if I bored you to death, but really you just need to know that gut health is directly influenced by your hormone health. And your hormone health is directly affected by your gut health. Okay. So, what do we do with that information, right? Let's just, before we get into the how-tos, let's look at the microbiome. So, if you keep hearing me say that word and you're like, what is that? Some fun facts. Who loves a fun fact? There are over 100 trillion bacteria in the gut, you guys. That is crazy. They're both good, they're both bad. And the collection of all of these bacteria together is what we call your microbiome or your microbiota. And of course, there are some times in life where we get some bad ones, like an E. coli or something like that, right? But ideally, the body is designed to have this nice little balance of them. And most of them are there to help, right? They really help. Again, that immune function is a really big one. So that's your microbiome, what's in your gut. What's interesting, again, if we're talking about hormones, is we also have something called the estrobolome, okay? Now, all of the bacteria in your gut have a different purpose, but there's about 60 of them that are especially helpful during perimenopause and menopause, okay? And they're called your estrobolome. So do you remember earlier I talked about an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, okay? That's that enzyme. So we talked about it before having too much of it, but we do actually need it to ensure, especially in menopause, that the small amounts of estrogen that we do have are actually getting activated into the cells, okay? So this estrobolome is really important. It has two key functions. It helps to break down toxic estrogens, okay? And it helps to activate helpful estrogens. So we can really keep thriving through perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. So again, you can see just how closely related these things are in this biofeedback loop, okay? So finding balance, finding health, because that's really, I'm always talking about living your best life. It's trying to find health, just to live your best life, to be able to do what you need to do without pain, without, unnecessary stress. Of course, there is stress in life, but just feeling, looking your best, being energized, being able to enjoy life, right? That requires really great communication. Okay, there's a marriage skill as well, but it requires great communication within that biofeedback loop between the gut and the hormones. So our job is really to try to keep that biofeedback loop clear. If we can just keep it talking to each other, if we can keep communication going with that, that's going to be our key to success with this. So kind of that's maybe a key point to write down is like keep that biofeedback loop communicating, right? Because that healthy microbiome, again, it's going to balance the hormones, it's going to balance the metabolism, and we don't want any of those hormonal imbalances kind of disrupting the guts, really delicate ecosystem. So, like I said, our job is just to work towards restoring balance. What daily choices, what daily habits can we remove? And what ones do we need to keep? What ones do we need to add to ensure we are going to have a long, happy life? All right. So it's simple, you guys. Here's 10 takeaways. Okay, let's break this down just a little bit. So, the first one is take an encapsulated probiotic. So, what I want you to know here is that most probiotics, not most, some probiotics that you take them, and maybe you're like, wow, this one's great. It has 100 trillion organisms and 100 trillion bacteria. It must be good. Well, it's only as good as its ability to survive your stomach, because some of them out there, you take them, and as soon as they hit your stomach, they're dead because the stomach acid kills them. Or so few. The reason they had 100 trillion is because only 40 of them actually make it into your GI system. So you want to have a probiotic that's encapsulated. And what that means is it's going to guarantee it survives the stomach acid and gets down into those intestines where it needs to do its work. Okay. Chew your food thoroughly. I caught myself last night eating really fast because I was on the run trying to get something done. And I was like, stop. Have you ever noticed if you eat really fast, you get a little indigestion, you don't feel good, you tend to overeat as well too, right? So the minute that you put food in your mouth and start to chew, the body's digestive enzymes are released right through your salivary glands. So taking more time to chew releases more of those enzymes and starts to break down that food sooner. So you're giving your body a kickstart in that digestion process, right? Eat slow, eat mindfully, eat whole foods. Again, this is hard in our life because we hit that easy button, that Staples commercial. And it's hard with the kids, right? There's times when we do hit that fast food drive through because I just don't have time or I haven't prepped meals for that day. But our bodies were not designed, nature was not designed for us to eat Big Macs, okay? Our body thrives on whole foods. If it's on a whole food, don't eat it. So eat an egg, eat a piece of steak, eat a carrot, right? Eat a whole food. It's just that simple. If you're like, can I eat this? If it's not a whole food, I'm not saying don't eat it, but keep that in moderation, okay? So basically, everything you eat is either you want to eat a healthy fat, you want to eat complex carbohydrates, as many of those as you can. So we're choosing vegetables. A simple carbohydrate or a starchy carbohydrate would be like your rice or your pasta. They're not bad for you, but they are going to hit your blood sugars a little bit sooner. So again, I tend to limit those things and instead choose those, the vegetables, the vegetables, the vegetables. There's a reason for that. Okay. So we have our healthy fats, we have complex carbohydrates, which we're shooting for, and of course, protein. Okay. We need to eat protein. And you've heard me say this before, especially over 40. The new research, if you look at the RDA allowances, they are based on men in the 1950s. They have not been updated since then, you guys. So there's some new stuff that's come out. Again, not like RDA stuff, but just the research is showing women in perimenopause need to eat as much as 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal to maintain muscle mass. Like, it's shocking. And I definitely saw that the last couple of years. I was losing muscle, wasn't working out as much either, but I was like, it's going. Where's it going? I wasn't eating enough protein. Okay. Went down a rabbit hole there again. But again, a lean body mass, right, is going to help your metabolism, which is going to help your hormone health, right? Okay. Are you eating fiber? You need to have fiber because you need that gut motility, right? So you need things moving through. And if you're not having any fiber rich foods in your diet, you're probably not pooping, right? So you need to have fiber. If you aren't getting enough in your, like with eating great vegetable choices, right? Then you want to supplement with with a fiber supplement, okay? Stress. We talked about the brain gut connection, which then goes into the gut hormone connection. So, how is the stress in your life? Drop it in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being nothing, 10 being like crazy. What is your stress level? And then the second question I want you to ask yourself, maybe write this down, is what are you doing? What are you doing to manage your stress? Because sometimes we let it spiral in our head. And so I want you to think of this strategy in those moments where you're like, I just can't breathe. You're overwhelmed. You think you have 100 things to do. The best thing you can do is stop, push away from your desk, go for a 5-minute walk outside, touch a tree, take some deep breaths, de-stress. Enjoy your life. Schedule in activities that bring you joy. Okay. We were in Calgary this past weekend with the kids. I had so much to do, and I was like, I don't know if I can really take 24 hours off of like just any, adult responsibilities. But we did. And I'll tell you, I came back home. I sat at my desk last night. I got more work done in 2 hours last night than I did probably in like the 8 hours the previous day, because I was kind of frazzled and needing that break. So schedule in joy, okay? Sleep, sleep, sleep. This is the most underrated thing you can do for your hormones. And then you'll say, well, I know, but I can't sleep now because I wake up. Yeah, I get that. That does happen. But what can we do? We can only control the controllables, right? So what can we do? Could we make sure our room is cool? Could we have a fan on to maybe drown out noise? A little bit of lavender sprayed on your pillow. Do you need to wear an eye mask? Listen to a meditation app. I think it's the Calm app. Is it the Calm or the Breathe app on my phone? There's actually a hypnotherapy. Every time I listen to that, I'm like literally snoring by the end of it. Like it puts me right to sleep, right? If you do wake up in the night and you're like, oh, you're tossing and you're turning, get up, have a glass of water, do some really, really, really gentle yoga. And by that, I mean, on the floor, maybe lie on your back, do a happy baby, do a child's pose, right? Just do some deep breathing. Again, maybe listen to that app again. We just need to get your body back into that relaxed state. Okay. So sleep. Number 7, reduce sugar intake. Confession, I love sugar so much. And if I have 1 bite of sugar, I want 75 bites of sugar. I also know if I have 1 bite of sugar, literally within 20 minutes, I can feel I have a bit of an upset stomach. Don't ignore those little signals. I ignored that for years because the taste of the sugar in my mouth was so satisfying that I focused on that versus how I felt 20 minutes later. But you need to think about that long-term feeling of happiness and wellness, right? Anyone else? Drop the word sugar in the comments. I have to say I did do some baking last night for the kids. Made as healthy options as I could. Some rhubarb muffins, pumpkin muffins. I haven't baked since before Christmas, you guys. But that actually was so comforting. I forgot how therapeutic it can be. The smell of cinnamon baking, it just took me back to my grandma's kitchen. So again, I found joy in that baking instead of it just before Christmas. I think I stopped because it was on the to-do list, right? So bake, but with limited sugar. I guess that's where I went with that one. Okay. Number 8, eat fermented foods. I have to be honest, this is not something I do a lot of. Kombucha, I've tried it different times. I don't love it. Sauerkraut, but they definitely do help. So if that's your thing, awesome. And number 9, try a gut reset program. I just recently did this a couple of weeks ago. Drop 5 pounds in a week. Wasn't about really the weight loss, but it was really just about resetting and getting rid of inflammation and such. I'll touch on that at the end today. But sometimes just doing that little gut reset, right? I'm not a big proponent of not eating for 5 days. Like if you're doing a cleanse and it is like 5 or 6 days of not eating, that's ridiculous. But something that's kind of short term that focuses on nutrition and water, go for it, right? Because you can actually reset your metabolism there. And of course, you guys know I was going to say this, supplement with collagen, because collagen has been proven to actually help to heal the gut. because again, all of your connective tissue in your body, your fascia, is made up of collagen. So it can really help. And when you do these things, these are very simple things you can do, you're going to see improvements. So it's not like, I want you to think about it this way. There's not one magic fix to anything. Like, there's not one magic pill you can take that's going to fix anything or everything. But you can do one thing, make one change, and you're going to see the ripple effect through the other parts of your life. So before we move on from this slide, with that piece of paper, I want you to look at this list, and I want you to write down number 1, number 2, number 3. What are 3 things off this list that you can do this week to improve your well-being? Then I want you just to try adding one at a time, because what I've learned, it took me years. I used to be so all or nothing with everything I did. It doesn't work. The key to success is one small change that ripples through and has this profound effect on that feedback loop, right, that we talked about, to really have a long-term change. So write down your top 3 things you're going to do. Drop those in the comments. I'd love to know what you need to focus on. Okay. And then let's just, again, bring this a little simpler. I'm always talking about the pillars of wellness. Write this down, you guys. There are 4 key areas in life. And if we make an improvement in how we eat, we will sleep better, we will move better, we'll have a better mindset. If we start eating better, if we start sleeping better, we're going to choose better foods. We're going to be more likely to exercise. Again, we're going to have a better brain clarity because we're not going to be tired. If we start to exercise and move well, we're going to sleep better. We're going to choose better food. It just happens. We're going to think better. Hold on, I'm going to shut that off. And if you start to do some mindset work and you start to think better and think more positive thoughts, you're more likely to eat well, to sleep well, to move well. So looking at that again, I want you to take a look and be like, okay, what do I need to do? Be really honest. No, don't be judgmental. Don't think of what you did in the past or what you want to do. Just right now, here in this moment, which pillar would be most beneficial for you to focus on? And I want you to write that down. Drop it in the comments if you want to. Okay. Send me an email if you need some help with it. But let's get you on the path to wellness, just simply one step at a time. Okay. Almost through this, guys. Wanted to say, do you need or do you want extra help? Because the idea is, or the thing is, we have the best intentions. I do as well. And then life gets busy. Stuff happens and we don't always meet our goals. So that's where supplements can help to optimize your results, either using a hormone support or a gut reset. So I want to show you 2 things that I support and recommend. The first, if you're having struggles with your hormones, I've started to use a supplement called Ova-M. So Ava is using the Ova because, of course, she's menstruating. I'm in perimenopause, so I'm using Ova-M. This is a natural supplement to support your hormones without the use of hormones. The results are crazy. Everyone that's taken it so far, everyone has said they're sleeping better, their hot flashes are reduced, they're not waking up hot, they have better brain function, increased libido. Like, there's so many benefits. Ava, on the Ova, she has less flow, so her periods aren't as heavy. Her cramping is way less. She's nicer to be around. I think that's the main things that she's kind of noticed, right? But there is a time and a place where the reality is we don't have all of our pillars of health kind of lined up. We can put some things in place just to help kind of move us along. This is something I think I will use forever. The second thing, as I mentioned, is to actually do a gut reset. So that is my feet. Yes, I have long toes. So I did a 5-day drop program. Again, it wasn't about the weight loss for me. I mean, that was great. But what happens is our bodies, there's 4 ways in which that we can actually lose weight, you guys. So we lose water retention, we lose inflammation, we lose digestive bulk, some toxins, and we lose fat. Okay. You can't lose 5 pounds of fat in a week. You can't, that's not how it works. What you can lose is 5 pounds of weight, and up to 2 pounds of that, 2.5 pounds, depending. It's going to be different for everybody, can actually be that fat no matter what program you do. So when I started with Best Me in January and I just started eating clean, the first weight that I lost in that first initial weight, it's always the water retention, the inflammation, and the digestive bulk. What happens when you get rid of that is you have better energy, the bloating's gone, the puffiness is gone, right? Your skin starts to glow a little bit more. It's crazy because we were in Calgary in the weekend. I had a couple food things, again, not bad food choices, but I immediately could see because we were eating in a restaurant, high sodium content, a little bit puffier. And I'm like, ooh, isn't that interesting how quickly it comes on, right? So now, the program that I used, if you're interested, just say the word reset down below. What you get with that is a really easy to follow guide, nutritional support. So there are products you can purchase, trace minerals, phytonutrients, probiotics, digestive enzymes. And the program itself, it's 5 days. Day one is a fast until 5 p.m. You're using nutritional supplements throughout the day to keep you healthy and energized. And then days 2 to 4, you're really focusing on eating very clean, whole grain foods and eating every 2 to 3 hours to get those blood sugars really level. And you feel really good at the end of it. So it's a great way to start your wellness journey. Okay. So let's get this action plan in place for you. If you haven't done that already, take a look at this. What do you need to do? Do you need to eat well, move well, sleep well? Do you need to think well? Those gut health improvements, what areas are we going to look at above? They're going to get us there. Do you need to add supplements, right? So do you need to take a probiotic? Would a digestive enzyme help you? Do you need hormone support, right? Do you need well, I take this one. I take Phyto Greens, right, which helps alkalinity in the body. There's so many options out there. What do you need? Okay. Track your symptoms, you guys. I can't stress enough. Most of the population is not aware. So when I have new clients, I'll often ask them how they feel doing an exercise, for example. They're like, I don't know, because they can't feel their working muscles. They've never thought about it. So I want you to be super curious every time you eat something. How does it taste, right? Because there's that initial, I love that, it's great. But how do you feel 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, an hour later? Do you have a little stomach ache? Is there a headache? What is your body telling you? Journal it, write it down. Journal when you're eating. When I was doing this reset, it was hilarious because on the first day of the fast, I couldn't eat, when I wanted to. But I realized half the time I'd be like, oh, I should eat. And I was like, wait, I'm actually not hungry. But it was just, there was a certain time. I realized every time I drive the kids to school, I have to have a coffee in my hand. It was really interesting to write down my habits, because once I had them written down, and I'm pretty aware, but there were some that came up on me, then moving forward, I'm like, oh, okay, I got to keep these top of mind and see if I can make some healthier choices there, right? So do you need hormone testing? Because is a time and a place where that needs to be done. It's something I actually think I might get done in the next couple months, because I'm curious. I'm really curious. If you need anybody, if you're in Cochrane, I have a nurse practitioner here that has offered in our group that she can do that testing for you. So let me know if that's something that you need. And what other wellness professionals can help you? Do you need to talk to a naturopath? Do you need to do acupuncture, Chinese medicine? It can really help with hormone balance. That was fascinating when my niece lived here and she was doing acupuncture on me. Like, it's super cool. Do you need a fitness professional? Do you need to do Pilates? Do you need to go to a yoga class in town? What can help you? Ask for help. Okay, that's again one of my biggest weaknesses. I try to do everything myself. Go out, find the person that can help you. As I said, does your gut need that reset? And do you need to work with a coach? Because that is something I've become truly passionate about this year. I have my Vibrant Woman coaching program, which is a 3-month program where you're delivered every week a different module of content, really all about living your best life, based on those pillars of wellness that I am so passionate about. And also part of that is looking at perimenopause within that, like what's going on there, because it is definitely a unique chapter in our life. So you guys, that is it for tonight's webinar. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, because as you know, this is my absolute passion. I love coaching people to move well, eat well, sleep well, and think well, because you guys, when you do that, you can have a great life, and we only get one. So I want you to have the best one possible. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great